Hello, this is Rich at Capital. I'm going to talk a little bit today about protective gear and some of the various options that are available for protective gear. The main thing to remember when you're keeping bees is you want to wear the amount of gear that makes you feel secure and comfortable working with your bees. If you're not secure and comfortable working with your bees, then you're going to be jostling frames, you're going to be nervous in the process, and that is just going to cause you a lot more animosity as you work with your bees, and also cause you more trouble when you're working with your bees as well. Some people wear very little gear, some people wear a lot of gear. Again, it depends a lot on their comfort level. So there's lots of different options that you have. One option, and one of the things we always recommend is regardless, is that you at a minimum wear something to protect your face. Honeybees understand that with mammals, that one of their most sensitive areas is their eyes, and they will target eyes if that is an option for them. So we always recommend that at a minimum you wear some form of a veil. Very often for myself in the summer, especially when it's hot, I don't like wearing jackets and other things like that. So frequently what I'll be doing is I'll be wearing a veil, and then typically I'll have a long sleeve shirt, usually a light colored shirt like this, and I'll just have the sleeves rolled down just to kind of protect my arms. If you're furry or fuzzy, then what happens is that the bees get in your hair, and then they get kind of trapped in there, and they might sting at that point. So in my case, I usually just wear my sleeves down in the summer, and then I'm wearing some form of a veil. So starting from the front here to kind of illustrate what we have, this is a hat with a separate veil. So this particular combination, what we have is a veil that works with just about any hat, as long as you can secure the veil with the elastic around the hat. This particular one has a vinyl coated steel mesh, so the screens in these are all steel mesh. And then it has this tulle material that comes down, and what that does is that just comes around your shoulder area and keeps the bees from getting up in underneath your veil. Again, you can use this with almost any hat. The hat that we have in here happens to be a cotton type of safari style hat, very common one that's used with this form of a veil. So usually in the summer months what I'll be doing is I'll be wearing some form of a veil like this. You can see how this comes down around. It has a set of strings then. I'm sorry, it has a, where are the strings here? It has a set of strings that come around. These just literally, you tie this around your waist. There are different designs of these depending upon the manufacturer. When you do that, what it does is it snugs the back of the veil down, the tulle material down, and this comes up through, and you have just kind of a loop here that you utilize, and you bring this down, and then you can snug this up and just tie that as snug as you want it. And the idea here is that you want this, normally you'll be wearing a collared shirt with this, and then what that does is you make sure this is down around your collar so that your bees can't get up underneath there, and then that provides protection as you're working and as you're moving. So that's a very simple type of veil with a separated hat. The next style we have is what's referred to as a hat-veil combination. So instead of having a separate hat, this one, the hat is integrated into the veil system, and this is a one-size-fits-all type of system. Similar kind of structure. This has a vinyl-coated wire mesh screen in it. One-size-fits-all hat, similar to the other veil. This goes over your head just like that. They're a little lighter and sometimes a little easier to work with than a combined, than a separated hat and veil. But this is kind of what the system looks like. And you have your strings that come around the back. And same kind of thing again. You'll see different variations of these in terms of how the systems are designed. But I'm gonna bring this down around. This one actually has a lot longer string in it, so I probably could go around myself one more time with this rather than looping it on the bottom. But again, you've got a loop here, string comes up through, and the intent is that the string comes up through, and then you can take and you can secure this down to work. And then you kind of have to form your veil a little bit. When they're brand new, they usually sit a little flat, but that's a hat veil combination. This next one is a round veil, and this is actually a shoulder system. So you can see this is a round veil. What's nice sometimes about the round veils, some people will say that they feel like they're not quite as constraining. This has a vinyl mesh veil material, vinyl mesh screen material in it. Then the white tulle material around the back side of it. One size fits all hat again. The way it works is as follows. So the veil system goes on like that, and then you have these shoulder straps. So rather than fiddling with strings, what you do is you use the shoulder straps, and these come down under your shoulders. And then you get a little bit of adjustment, make sure that your collar is in, make sure everything's settled, and there you have a very simple way to kind of protect your face. These are not as heavy as the wire mesh screens that have the vinyl coating on them, but they're still a very acceptable veil, especially if you have guests or you're just going to go out and do a quick hive inspection. This might be the right type of veil to use. So that's 3 examples of hat type veil systems. Going from the veil type systems and hats, then the next step up from there is to wear some form of a jacket. There are different styles of jackets. This is what's referred to as a fencing style jacket. A fencing style jacket, what that means is it actually has what's referred to as a fencing veil. And so there you can see the fencing veil. Looks very much like what people who do fencing do, except that this has a vinyl mesh screen. It's not a steel mesh screen in it. This is a zippered type jacket, very much just like a normal jacket that you'd wear out and about in the spring of the year or the fall of the year, anywhere. These are poly cotton blend. They're predominantly cotton. I think they're about 65% cotton, 35% polyester, which gives a little bit of durability. And they're a little lighter weight. Like most all your gear, when you're dealing with jackets, doesn't matter what style of jacket or suit that you're dealing with, they are not sting proof. They're sting resistant. And the way that you improve the sting resistance of them is by not having them fit too tight. You want your jackets to fit loose around your clothing or loose around your skin. You do not want them skin tight. This is fairly light material, so you have a little bit cooler in the summer months. The other thing that you want to look at when you're dealing with jackets is the waist, that you want them to fit snug around the waist. So most jackets will have some form of an elastic in the waist to provide that snugness so that the bees don't crawl up between your belt and your shirt and get up your back or get up the front. So when you're sizing jackets, always kind of double check the snugness of the fit around your waist. So lots of different designs of this style of jacket. You'll see them sometimes with plastic zippers. Ours generally have metal zippers now, but very nice, very functional. The other thing about these two that you always want to check is that where the zippers come together, most all the time you'll have some form of a Velcro closure, so that when the veil is zipped and when everything's zipped, the 3 zippers come together underneath here, and that keeps all that secure so the bees can't get up under and inside your veil. That's not a good experience when you get bees inside your veil. Some people, these all have collars on them. Some people feel that the collars make them a little hotter in the summer, even though they're a relatively light jacket. But again, it comes down to personal preference sometimes in bee gear, and it's always a good idea if you have the opportunity to try something on and see how it fits you and whether it's something that you're going to be comfortable working in. Another style of jacket is a pullover style jacket. This is a pullover jacket with a round veil. What I usually tell people is people who like to wear sweatshirts, t-shirts, like to pull things over their head, a pullover jacket probably works just fine for them versus a zippered style jacket. Here again, there is a zipper around the base of the veil, and it is a round veil with a one-size-fits-all style hat, so you do get a little more space between your face and the bees compared to some of the fencing veil systems. Still has elastic around the bottom to provide a nice snug fit around your waist. Other things too you'll start to see that are different between manufacturers of jackets are the way that they make the cuffs. So some use a gathered material with elastic in it. Some use a knitted style cuff, similar to what you'd have on jackets, regular jackets that you wear in the spring or fall of the season. So you see variations like that. Some people like the knitted style cuffs because they don't cut into their wrists. But again, it comes down to personal preference for the beekeeper. So those jackets were polycotton blend jackets. You can also obtain what's referred to as a ventilated jacket. So this is a ventilated jacket. This is a relatively large ventilated jacket. This happens to be a 4 extra large. But what the ventilated material is, it's actually a 3-layer mesh. So what there is on the interior, there's a tulle type material. Then there is like a gridded foam type material. And then on the outside is another layer of a tulle type material, nylon. These are nice. The intent is that you have a lot more airflow relative to a cotton jacket or a polycotton jacket. So when you get a breeze in the summer, breeze blows through them a little bit easier and people feel that they're cooler. The disadvantage is though that you do have a lot of material in these jackets and they are physically heavier. So they're heavier on your shoulders than what you would have with a standard fencing veil jacket or a round veil type of jacket. Other things you see not only in the ventilated jackets but also in things like the standard jackets. Some manufacturers put in an elastic thumb strap in them. That's to keep your wrists, keep the wrists pulled down when you're wearing it so they don't ride up. These again have a knitted style elastic wrist in them. But another form of jacket that you run across and that is popular with a number of beekeepers, ventilated style jacket. Going from jackets, then there are different forms of suits. This is a polycotton suit. Generally they will have a zipper at the foot end to try to make it so it's easier to get your foot through, or if you're wearing shoes when you put them on, to get your shoes through. Most of them will have some form of a heel strap. So if you do put them on without shoes on, you can put the heel strap around your heel, then slip your shoe on, and that'll keep the leg of the jacket pulled down as you're working with your bees. This particular one has a round veil on it. So it's another style of veil, similar to the round veil that's used in a jacket, but in this case it is on a suit. So the advantage of a suit is that you don't have to worry about if you bend over that the bees are going to come up under the back of between your belt and the jacket itself, because this is all one piece and enclosed. We do recommend that when people are trying on suits that you try them bent over and all the different positions you're going to work in to make sure you've got actually enough room to navigate around inside of that suit. Some people don't like the suits because again, you're wearing material and it can be a little bit hotter than in the summer months. But polycotton suit, this polycotton suit is similar, except instead of a round veil, it has a fencing veil. And again, in this one, the veil is a nylon type mesh material, but that is a poly cotton fencing veil type suit. And suits and jackets and all that are available in a wide range of sizes to best accommodate the beekeeper. In addition to polycotton suits, you can also get suits that are in a ventilated type material. This happens to be a child's ventilated suit, just a miniature version of the adult ventilated suits. So lots of different options for a beekeeper. Again, the intent is that you wear the gear that makes you feel most comfortable working with your bees. The more comfortable you are working with your bees, the smoother the process is going to be, the lower the likelihood that you're going to trigger a reaction from your bees. In addition to veils and suits and jackets, there are beekeeper gloves. This happens to be a set of fairly typical beekeeper gloves. Different manufacturers will make them from different forms of leather. These happen to be goatskin gloves. Some will be cowhide gloves, different forms of leather that manufacturers will use. Very often with traditional beekeeper gloves, at least the more modern ones, they'll have some form of a ventilated area in them. I don't know if it makes a lot of difference in the end. Sometimes that ventilated mesh in cheaper gloves gets damaged. This here, the ventilated mesh, is actually 2 layers or 3 layers actually is what this one is. Provides more durability when you're putting on the gloves. Other things you'll find too when you're wearing gloves, especially if you're sizing gloves, is that you want to make sure that they're relatively snug in their fit, that you don't want to lose a lot of dexterity in the process, and you don't want to have a lot of extra material in the process. So here's an example of that. Fits relatively snug. If you got a lot of extra material in the fingertips, and when you go to grab frames and stuff, the reality is you're not going to do a good job grabbing frames. Bees can sting through leather, so do not be surprised. And if when you're wearing gloves, especially if they get wet or they get damp from sweat, there is a possibility bees could sting through them. But gloves are something that, again, it comes to personal preference of the beekeeper. Some people will wear nitrile types of gloves. Some people wear rubber dish gloves. It varies a lot by personal preference. Generally, when I wear gloves, the way that I do this is I'll put my gloves on first, and then I'll put my jacket over the top of that. So what happens is that the cuff of my gloves is actually up inside my jacket, and then that way the cuff of the sleeve of my jacket just comes down over. If you try to, very often, you try to put the gloves over the jacket, there isn't enough, there's so much material, it's just all kind of bunching up. So most of the time when I'm working, this is kind of how I'm set up, that I'll have, if I'm wearing gloves, my sleeve just comes down over the top of the cuff, just makes it more comfortable for me, makes it more of a hassle when you go to take them off, but not impossible. So those are some of your options as it relates to protective gear. And if you ever have questions, feel free to give us a call.